Well, tourism is up in Louisiana, and Ouachita Parish is seeing a lot of growth as well. Kenya Ross breaks down the numbers.
We spend our year bringing people into our community to spend money here. So they stay in our hotels, eat at our restaurants, go shopping.
Visitors to the state spent a total of $18.1 billion last year, and Northeast Louisiana saw some of those dollars as well. Among sporting events, conventions, and meetings, Ouachita Parish pulled in more than $24.6 million.
This is a big time for us. We have a ton of sporting events. This is really a great area for sports tourism. We just hosted the NJCAA outdoor track and field men's and women's championship last weekend, where we had over 800 athletes. And we're looking forward to some huge events like that coming up in the summer.
Discover Monroe West Monroe says the Twin Cities hosted a total of 181 events throughout the year in 2023. Vice President of Communications Sheila Snow says of the $24.6 million produced last year, that's money that citizens don't have to pay.
Some of our research has shown that on average, visitors spend last year in 2023, visitors spent about $189 per trip into our area. And so those are some money that our community members aren't having to spend here.
Discover Monroe West Monroe is celebrating National Travel and Tourism Week until Saturday. For KNOE 8 News, I'm Kenya Ross.